Welcome to the first ever RZFL NFL podcast. Today we're here with Nicholas Buckley Games and our friend John. Say what's up.
What's up?
Hello.
Today we're going to be talking about a variety of things. We're talking about everything from Cam Newton, Patrick Mahomes, to ESPN's terrible top 10 running backs list, and much more. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the podcast. And let's go ahead and get started right into it. We're just going to knock this out of the way. How about Patrick Mahomes' baseball contract?
It's madness. I have no idea how they expect him to... They pay him for 10 years, but to stay healthy for 10 years.
I mean, we've seen a lot of people have signed 10-year contracts in the past. Not a single one of them's made it through all 10 years. Obviously, this is Patrick Mahomes. He's a lot younger than a lot of other quarterbacks that received it, like Drew Bledsoe and Brett Favre. But still, 10 years?
I think it's a risky move, especially because there's a lot of good players that have been signed for long deals, and then maybe they fall off a couple years in, and then it's kind of, they're paying them a lot of money for such a long contract that they're kind of required to pay them. And as we're comparing it to baseball, baseball-sized contract, as a Yankees fan, I see that the Yankees tend to, at least in the last 5 years,
overpay.
They overpay players.
They overpay veterans.
But
it doesn't matter because they're a big market team. There's no salary cap.
Jacoby Ellsbury, they lost.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The Yankees don't matter. They're a big market team. Obviously,
we'll save this for an MLB podcast. We don't need to get into the salary cap.
Anyway, this is the football. There's a salary cap. The Chiefs are kind of screwing themselves over. I know the salary cap's going to expand. I mean, we keep getting there's record-breaking deals every other day. It seems like, or maybe not every other day, but you know what I mean. Every year. I mean, I remember a couple years ago when Matthew Stafford was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, and I thought that deal was insane. And now we're talking about a 10-year potential $503 million deal. I mean, I understand in baseball people giving the Phillies a hard time for Bryce Harper, a 10-year deal. I believe that was $330 million, something like that.
11 years too.
11 years. I'm sorry, guys. But it was a ridiculous deal. And now we're talking about football, a contact sport where your career could be over or changed just like that. It's a contact sport. You can get a concussion, a really bad injury. Mahomes even had an injury that wasn't that bad, but he had an injury last year. I don't like 10 years. I mean, especially Drew Lock's coming up right now on the Broncos. The Broncos have a very solid defense, and they're a young team. Obviously, they want Mahomes to be winning the AFC West and beating them out every single year, but honestly, I don't think Mahomes is going to last 10 years in Kansas City.
I think it's a risky move, and I'm not sure that it's really going to pay off that well in the long run. I'm not sure.
The only way a 10-year deal works, if you're talking about anyone in NFL history, the only way a 10-year deal would work is you're talking a Tom Brady in his prime or a Tom Brady just before his prime or like a Drew Brees, like right at the beginning of his prime. Any other quarterback you're signing 10-year deals, that doesn't make sense. Like even Peyton Manning had a pretty bad injury. Obviously, he bounced back when... Again, played very well with the Broncos, but 10 years? Come on. Anyway, I'd like to take this time to shout out our sponsor, Nicholas Buckley Games, coming at you with the greatest games of this century. Download Protect Peggy J-Run or Decode the Code today. Use promo code RZFL for a free Decode the Code RZFL pack. Okay, so with Patrick Mahomes, we got it. Contract, insane. I want to jump into this. This is going to be our main topic. I want to jump into this horrendous top 10 running back list made by ESPN.
Yeah, put it on the screen.
ESPN has to be the worst. I don't even know what to say. ESPN is the worst sports network I think there is, and that includes Fox Sports with Colin Cowherd, and oh man, they got together 50 of their top NFL experts, their top 50 NFL insiders. I'm talking the people that are supposed to know more than every person alive. And they send us this list.
All right, I want to start things off, actually, with this list. Now, as a Giants fan, I do appreciate that they put Saquon Barkley number 1, but I do not agree with it. I think he's way too high up on the list. He's a good player and all, but I do not think he deserves to be number 1 on the list.
I think Saquon Barkley maybe potentially ceiling could be number 1, but after the year he had last year, and I get it, you're going to say he's injured. He was injured last year. He had a terrible offensive line and had a rookie quarterback. Obviously, yeah, he's not going to have a good year. He still had over 1,000 yards. He's definitely the best in the game. I'd like to say no. Okay, he's not. And here's the reason why. He had 3 horrendous games last year. 3 terrible games. Want to tell him about those 3 terrible games?
I would love to tell
Because
him about those 3 terrible games.
these are games that if you're talking about the number 1 running back in the league, I can't. And we're starting off on Saquon Barkley. You may be disagreeing with us right now. I think McCaffrey and Chubb are both better than him. I could prove Chubb in every single stat as well as McCaffrey is better than Barkley based off of 2018 and 19. It's really not that hard.
And I'd like to point out that these 3 games are horrendous for any team.
I don't care if you're healthy. I don't care if... And by the way, in terms of offensive line, the Giants were middle of the pack according to Pro Football Focus. Middle of the pack. I'm talking, I think there were 16, 17, something around there. We're talking about the Browns, who were 27th on Pro Football Focus in terms of offensive line. So you want to use that excuse? Use it for Nick Chubb. Don't use it for Saquon Barkley.
Please educate me on the offensive line, because I know the offensive line situation for the Giants feels way worse than maybe it is. So please educate me.
But hold on. We need to bring up the game logs right now.
We need to bring up the stats, all right, John? Week 3 against Tampa, Saquon Barkley had 8 attempts for 10 yards.
Can you give me a yards per carry on that?
That is 1.25 yards per carry. And the Giants went on to win that game.
Well, that goes to show you the Giants actually do not just rely on Saquon Barkley.
Exactly. So I don't feel like that's not
as valuable as other backs.
Well,
if you took Nick Chubb away from the Browns last year with Freddie Kitchens coaching, the Browns win 4 games.
Well, I would like to say that the Giants, Daniel Jones,
same thing with McCaffrey. McCaffrey won the Panthers multiple games last year.
Daniel Jones gonna have
Derrick Henry won the Titans multiple games last year.
Daniel Jones is going to
Saquon Barkley did not win the Giants games last year, and even his rookie season, he did not win the Giants games.
Daniel Jones, if he can fix his fumble problem, is definitely going to be a great...
We're not talking about Daniel Jones right now.
I'm mentioning Daniel Jones because...
And you could tell me the Giants have bad coaching, they have a bad overall team, Saquon Barkley can't win them. If he's the best back in the league, he better be able to win these games.
I'm saying that Saquon Barkley may not be the best back
in
the
league. Okay,
let's
keep going. We have two more horrendous games.
I hold up. I'd like to defend my point here.
No. We have 2 more horrendous games.
We have 14 carries for 28 yards. And then the very next game, that was week 6, and then week 7 against the Jets.
The Jets did have one of the best running defenses, so did the Cowboys. So I will give them that, but still, read the stat line.
Well, you're trying to say...
Read the stat line.
13 runs for 1 yard.
13 carries for 1 yard. I'm going to go pull up my calculator real quick, because the yards per carry is a little generous. They have to round up to the nearest 10th. If I go 1 divided by 13, I get 0.076. That is less than a 10th of a yard per carry. I could get my grandma out on the football field and give her 13 carries, and I guarantee you she could average at least a 10th of a yard per carry. I guarantee you she could at least get 10 yards. And you're saying the best back in the NFL. I don't care if he was injured or not. If he's the best back in the NFL, he better be able to give you a game that he has 13 carries for more than a measly yard.
Well, I agree with what you're saying. He's not the best back in the NFL, but I would like to say that just because he doesn't carry the team and the Giants can win without Saquon Barkley in some of the games, that doesn't prove anything. That just proves that the Giants may be better than you think.
But we're talking about these horrendous stat lines.
It proves he's not number 1.
This is not the best back in the league. We're just getting... This is just the start.
Well, everyone's going to have
This is just the start.
I agree that these couple games that you've mentioned, these 2-3 games that you've mentioned, are not good games.
And I would like to point this out too. Saquon Barkley can't block. He can't block. I would like to pull up... I'm gonna search for this play, but in the meantime, we're gonna break down some more of the list. Against the against the Jets last year, Jamal Adams came right around, threw Saquon Barkley our way like a bag of potato chips, took the ball out of Daniel Jones' hand and ran in for a touchdown. Saquon Barkley can't block. That was just one instance of many. If you looked in 2018 between Nick Chubb and Saquon Barkley, this is their rookie years. Nick Chubb had the more efficient season, and Nick Chubb had the higher Pro Football Focus grade. You want to know why he had the higher Pro Football Focus grade? Because he had a more important role on the Browns and also could actually block. Blocking is a big addition. I understand Saquon Barkley is a beast in the receiving game, and he's an overall beast. He should be number 2 or number 3, but he is not number 1. Hands down, not number 1.
Well, you talked about Nick Chubb. I definitely don't think Nick Chubb should be as low as he is on the list.
I know. Okay, we're getting to number 7 a little later.
Are we going to go in order? Is that how we're attacking this?
We're attacking it like that. I can't believe this order. I can't wait to get to Le'Veon Bell being on here. I don't know how he's on here. But we're going to go number 2, Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, I say he's either 1 or 2. And he's better than Barkley. I don't think he should be behind Barkley at all. This dude had, 2,300, more than that? How many scrimmage yards did this guy have? We didn't come too prepared, apparently. Christian McCaffrey, scrimmage yards. We're making our search on Football Reference right now. I mean, at least we're actually searching. I mean, Colin Cowherd probably doesn't even search his stats. He just says stuff. In terms of scrimmage yards last year, 2,300, almost 2,400 scrimmage yards from McCaffrey. He was a beast last year. Simply, he's better than Barkley. I'm sorry, he's better than Barkley.
I'm going to actually have to agree on that. I know Barkley's definitely not the best back in the NFL, but he is still deserving to be in the top 5 for sure, I think, on this list.
Now we have Ezekiel Elliott. I don't know what he's doing at this number 3 spot. A lot of people either really like Zeke or they really hate Zeke. A lot of people still think Zeke, for some reason, is the best back in the league. He's not. Obviously, Ezekiel Elliott had the 4th best offensive line last year, according to Pro Football Focus. He always has fantastic offensive lines. Every single year. Fantastic offensive lines. A quarterback that could somewhat do something. Obviously, play call, not so good. But we have this guy. He had 301 carries last year for 1,357 yards. Seems pretty good. But if I would like to just pull up my boy Nick Chubb real quick, he got 298 carries. That's 4 fewer carries. And over 100 more yards. Well over 100 more yards. And the thing is, Ezekiel Elliott had one of the best offensive lines in the league. Nick Chubb had one of the worst offensive lines in the league.
I think given his stats, he definitely deserves to be on the list, just maybe not as high up.
I would say he's either 4 or 5. But 3 at this point, nah. And then we have Alvin Kamara. Only God knows why he's on this list. At number 4. Alvin Kamara, still a fantastic running back. You're going to put him on at number 4, though. Number 4. What are our thoughts on this one, guys? What are our thoughts?
To be honest, if you were to ask to list the top 5 running backs, I don't think he would have made it for me. I think I'd put him on the later half of the top 10.
I don't even know if he fits in my top 10. I'm going to be honest, okay? He hasn't... I know this isn't his role in terms... He scores touchdowns. I understand he scores touchdowns. I understand he gets really involved in the receiving game. But he's not went over 1,000 rushing yards one time yet. And... he was injured last year, but he still played 14 games. Obviously, he was following behind Mark Ingram the previous years. But as an overall running back, he doesn't give me the same receiving presence as an Austin Eckler, and he's just not a super, super solid rusher. No, not 4. Not 4. He's a very good, talented back, scores a lot of touchdowns, gets involved in the receiving game, but no. Not number 4. And then we have Derrick Henry, who a lot of people either think he is like the 5th best back or they think he's 1. Not 1. I think 5 is a solid place to put him, actually.
So you're saying he's 5, and you're also mentioning a lot of people in the top 5 as not worthy of being in the top 5. So if you had to
No. If I had to order, I would go... the biased part of me would want to put Nick Chubb at 1, but right now I'm going to go McCaffrey 1. Nick Chubb's going to change that, but going into the season right now, I'd say McCaffrey's 1, Nick Chubb is 2, 3 I'd go Saquon, 4 I'd go Zeke, and 5 I'd go Henry. I feel like that's pretty solid once you break down all the stats, you break down their blocking abilities, you break down their role in the offenses. Obviously, Henry and Chubb do not get involved, and Zeke too. They don't really get involved in the receiving game at all. And that's because they don't have to. That's not their role in their offense. In the Browns' offense the past 2 years, they've had Duke Johnson and Kareem Hunt take that receiving role. Same for Henry. They had Deion Lewis take that receiving role. That's not the role they're asked to play. The role they're asked to play is to just run all over defenses, and that's exactly what they do. If you're talking about a Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey, they're asked to catch 100 checkdowns a year, and that does inflate their stats a little bit. Yes, they are very good route runners, but they're 2 different styles of running backs, and I don't think people are separating them. People are trying to put receiving yards up, and that's just not how we roll around here, I think.
Yeah, if you look strictly, I think, of how they are at being a running back and running the ball, except when it comes to consistency, I'd put Henry in my top 3. I just feel like he's good when not in the consistency.
Yeah, his game. I mean, he really got going at the end of the year, but the games in the middle of the season, early season, were not the best, and he did save his season at the end. obviously went on to lead the league in rushing, but that was also kind of because the Browns super underutilized Nick Chubb in the final 2 weeks of the year. Nick Chubb going into Week 16 actually had 14 games in a row with 75 all-purpose yards or more, and every single one of those first 14 games, then Freddie Kitchens decided, hey, let's not give him the ball.
RZFL, I know you're a Browns fan, but we could talk a little bit less about Nick Chubb.
No, we got to talk more about Nick Chubb.
Well, we're going to be talking about Dalvin Cook before Nick Chubb.
All right, well, let me
talk about
He
Nick
can't
Chubb,
stay healthy. He can't stay healthy. He's gotten injured every single year. He's played, and he's saying that he's going to hold out. He only had 4.5 yards per carry last year. Obviously, he put up phenomenal receiving numbers. He had over 1,600 scrimmage yards, had 13 total touchdowns, but he fumbled 4 times. I understand Nick Chubb did fumble 3 times last year. A couple of them weren't his fault, obviously, in the Patriots game. But Cook, I can't put him at 6 because he doesn't stay healthy. I think he's definitely a top 10 back, but I like a guy like Josh Jacobs a little bit more than Dalvin Cook right now because I know that Jacobs did get hurt too, but
All right, I'd like to ask a question. Do you think that we're going to be having the same conversation with running backs as we were with tight ends about the role that they're going to have in offenses in the future?
Probably. I mean, obviously, again, Dalvin Cook is a receiving back. He can ground and pound, but he's more of a receiving back. In terms of tight ends, you have... I mean, we obviously don't talk about blocking tight ends as the best tight end. I mean, something that I think separates George Kittle from other tight ends is his blocking ability, but he's a receiving tight end. So that's not... There's not really too many roles you could play as a tight end. You're either receiving tight end or blocking tight end. Those receiving tight ends are always in the top discussion, just kind of straying away. And running backs, you do have purely rushing guys, and then you have guys that can do both. In this thing, that's a little bit different, obviously, but I understand what you're saying. And now we finally got to him. Sir Nicholas Chubb, the number 7 back, according to ESPN. How? Tell me how he's number 7. How? I would like an explanation from either one of you why ESPN decided to put him at number 7.
I think it's because it says according to the poll conducted by ESPN with 50 NFL personnel. I think they're biased against Nick Chubb. I
think everyone's sleeping on Nick Chubb. You can't say 14 games. The first 14 games last year. 75 plus scrimmage yards in every single game. That was the biggest streak last season. He had a ton of good games, ran over a ton of really good teams. He played in a division where he had to go against the Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens twice a year. They're 2 top 5 defenses. You have Ezekiel Elliott and Saquon Barkley who play in a pillow fight of a division. They get to play, obviously, Ezekiel Elliott gets to play against the Giants defense and the Redskins defense and a banged up Eagles defense twice a year. When Saquon Barkley gets to go, I mean, the Cowboys do have a good rushing defense, but he gets to go up against a Redskins defense and a banged-up Eagles defense. Neither one of them can stop the run twice a year. That's 4 games. While Nick Chubb, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. And you can bring up, Nick Chubb gets to play the Bengals. The Bengals defense, on the games the Browns played them, they used them the first time. The second time, Freddie Kitchens just refused to hand the ball to him in the second half.
You know, I think it's ridiculous that Nick Chubb's not even in the top 5 of this list. Now, I think it's crazy because he even puts up an argument for being the top back on this list or even the top 2 on this list. And I can't
Dude had 1,494 rushing yards with Freddie Kitchens in a well below average offensive line. You know who was on the Browns offensive line last year? 158 pounds of weed, Greg Robinson. Dude couldn't block at all. They had Chris Hubbard. Dude couldn't block at all. They had a variety of people playing the other guard position. Obviously, he had 2 consistent offensive linemen in Joe Bitonio and J.C. Turner. A variety of people, Wyatt Teller, Eric Kush, throw a random guard in there, you name it. Browns had a terrible offensive line last year. Terrible play caller. Nearly put up 1,500 rushing yards.
I think this is off topic, and I do agree that Nick Chubb should definitely be higher than Saquon on this list. However, I do wonder where the Browns' offensive line...
You just said that. Ooh.
I do wonder where the Browns' offensive line ranks among the Giants, because you're saying the Giants is around
if you want to go
average compared to everyone else, and I'm wondering where the Browns are at in comparison.
Pro Football Focus, the Browns are at 27, the Giants were like 17.
Okay.
Something around there. Obviously, people don't like Pro Football Focus because, I mean, I don't know why. They say they're idiots when they're people that evaluate film, study film, and what do you guys do? You sit on Twitter and you're trolling everyone every other minute.
I mean, I think for some of these players, you can kind of argue that they're better than some of the others if you just pick selective stats for certain things. But I think for Nick Chubb, he's got kind of a lot of the stats in just a wide variety of categories to kind of prove that he's better than some of the other backs on this list, honestly. He definitely should be in the top 5 easy, top 3 for most people who are making a top 10 list for sure, and even a contender for number 1, as much as I hate to say it, considering there's a Browns fan here in the room.
I'd like to get. I want your opinion, Nicholas Buckley Games. I want your opinion on this man.
I do agree that there seems to be some kind of bias against him, especially because up to the first 14 weeks of the season, he was the leading rusher.
He was
he was the leading rusher.
Literally, Freddie Kitchens had to not give him the ball. It took Derrick Henry all 32 carries to steal that rushing title away from him. I can't imagine if this guy. The Browns have a solid offensive line now. They drafted Jedrick Wills, they picked up Jack Conklin, and there's only one question mark whether that other guard position is whether it's going to be Wyatt Teller or Drew Forbes. The Browns actually are going to have an offensive line. They're going to actually have a play caller in Kevin Stefanski, who used Dalvin Cook very well. People are saying, well, Kareem Hunt's going to steal a lot of carries. That's not Kareem Hunt's role. Kareem Hunt's role is more of a receiving back. The Browns are even trying to play him at receiver more. Last year, he was played at receiver. I saw him lined up as the number 3 receiver more than anyone else on the Browns last year, and he only played 8 games. You have Kevin Stefanski, an offensive mastermind, coming in. If Nick Chubb is fed properly, 1,800 yards this season. That sounds crazy. That sounds biased. That is because it is. But look at the stats. Look at the yards per carry over the years, and just look. Just look. I'm gonna bring up Nick Chubb's 2018 season, and that was actually more efficient than his last year's season. 2018 season, he had 996 rushing yards, I believe, a yards per carry of 5.2, and he only started 9 games. If I were to go ahead and take Carlos Hyde's carries from the beginning of that year, and I was just to give him 80% to Nick Chubb, Nick Chubb would have easily outrushed Saquon Barkley, easily, and that's just simple math. You're just adding rushing yards. And Carlos Hyde ran for 3.7 yards a carry.
Now, I'm going to be honest, we talked a lot about Nick Chubb, and I think it's time to remind you guys of our sponsor, Nicholas Buckley Games.
Our sponsor, Nicholas Buckley Games, coming at you with the greatest games of the century. Download, protect, page, run, or decode today on the Google Play App Store. Use promo code RZFL on decode for a free RZFL pack.
All right, I think we should get into Joe Mixon now and keep powering through this list.
Okay, Joe Mixon, I mean, obviously he had a terrible offensive line last year. 4.1 yards per carry. I think that's right about where he should be.
I honestly think he's one of the highlights, definitely, of the Bengals. He's probably
He's the only highlight of the Bengals. He ran all over the Browns in Week 17 last year, but I mean that game didn't matter really too much. I'll give the Bengals that win.
And I'm just looking at his breakdown real quick. He had 19 carries for 93 yards. That ended in a loss. He had 23 carries for 146 yards. They lost that game.
Joe Mixon couldn't do anything. The Bengals had a terrible team last year. They had one of the worst teams I've ever seen on a football field. And I saw the 0-16 Browns play.
Yeah, and he definitely got buried in the rest of that team.
I mean, he had 4.1 yards per carry. I don't know why Bengals fans are already acting like he's a top 3 back. He's not. I would actually put the next guy on this list above him, and that's Josh Jacobs. Why would I put Josh Jacobs? Most missed tackles in the league. He only played, I believe, 13 games. Josh Jacobs put up ridiculous stats, carried the Oakland Raiders, nearly took them to a playoff spot. If he didn't get injured, probably would have. This guy he's a beast. And I feel like he should be a little bit higher, and I feel like he could be one of the league's best backs. I feel like when we're having this conversation next year, I'm very high on this guy. He had over 1,100 rushing yards in just 13 games, over 1,300 scrimmage yards, fumbled only one time. Very solid player. And also when we're talking about missed tackles and broken tackles, according to multiple things like Football Reference, Football Outsiders, Nick Chubb was also number 1 or number 2 on that stat. And the number 1 or number 2 of the other guy was Josh Jacobs. Another reason why Nick Chubb's also a beast. Just want to put that out there. But Josh Jacobs, he's very good. I think he should be a little bit higher. What are your thoughts?
Well, I definitely think that Josh Jacobs could be a little bit higher on this list. I definitely do agree. But yeah, I mean, I think I'd like to know your opinion of Le'Veon Bell though. When the next
Why is he on this list?
well, what do you think about between Alvin Kamara and Le'Veon Bell? Who definitely deserves to be on this list? I think
Alvin
Kamara
Kamara.
definitely
No, he deserves to be on this list, but I'd put him like a 9 or 10. I mean,
yeah, he definitely should be around where Le'Veon.
And then
Bell
Le'Veon Bell.
Is there anybody?
I understand Le'Veon Bell used to be the league's best back, but you're like, oh yeah, he had a bad year last year. You could use the same excuses: bad offensive line, bad coaching, new team, blah 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 blah. He ran for 3.2 yards a carry. 3.2. My grandma could run for 3.2 yards per carry. Easily. I already used that example but it's true.
Well, RZFL, who else do you think would fill that spot? Honestly, if forget the whole.
Hold on. I just want to go off a little bit more on. So
Okay.
obviously, Bell had a ton of good years with Pittsburgh. We're not just talking about one bad year. We're talking about 2018. He didn't even play, and then 2019 a horrendous year with the Jets. 2 bad years in a row. He didn't play. He's not top 10. I don't know where ESPN. It's not like just one person just put him on. They're like, maybe he has some juice left in him. Maybe he'll return to normalcy. No. 50 people somehow were able to get this dude on a top 10 list.
I don't get it.
So who do you think that isn't on this list deserves to be on the list, especially over Le'Veon Bell? But who else do you think could be on this list that should be honestly deserving? Or at least
top 10. This running back is so tight right now. Obviously, you can make the claim that Austin Eckler, in terms of his receiving abilities, could be on here. A healthy Leonard Fournette could be on here. Again, that's injury problems, but a healthy Leonard Fournette could be on here. Chris Carson went off last year. If it wasn't for his fumbles, he could be on here. Lamar Jackson's a better running back than Le'Veon Bell. He could even be on here. You have Kenyon Drake. I don't think he's top 10 yet, but he could be also on here when it's all said and done at the end of next year.
I was looking at Kenyon Drake's stats, and even some of his
rushing
stats are better than Alvin Kamara's, honestly.
Well, Kamara's not. He's more the receiving type of back.
I know.
We'll talk about that, but
I mean, Kenyon Drake did.
He went
still
for
get
4
a decent
touchdowns
amount of
against the
yards
Browns.
He's
He's a beast. I mean,
And I just wanted to make sure I compared this player's stats to Le'Veon Bell just to make sure. But someone like a rising player like Sony Michel,
Sony Michel should not be on here. 3.7 yards per carry. He's terrible.
I feel like he could be rising though by the end of the
he's
season.
terrible. He's literally terrible. I have a friend who's a Patriots fan. His name's Josh. He changed to a Buccaneers fan. Then when they got Cam Newton, he went right back. But he calls Sony Michel the biggest bum the Patriots have ever had. He doesn't run through holes. He's terrible. First contact, he goes down.
Well, who do you think's better, Le'Veon Bell or him?
No, Le'Veon Bell's better than Sony Michel.
Think so?
Yes.
Wow, I don't think so.
3.7 yards. I don't understand if Le'Veon Bell at 3.2. I don't even know how you get 3.2 yards per carry. I don't even know how you go that low. But 3.7 is horrendous. It's horrendous. Honestly, Austin Eckler could be on here. He had 1,500 scrimmage yards last year as a receiving back. I mean, he had 993 receiving yards as a running back last year. He could be on here, but again, that's a different style of back. I know a lot of people are going to hate that I say this, but Philip Lindsay could be on here too. A lot of people are sleeping on him. They're even saying that he isn't even the best back in Denver, which I kind of find a little funny. But Philip Lindsay made it to the Pro Bowl in 2018, had a phenomenal rookie season. Last year had a kind of a down season in terms of him, but still had a pretty solid year. Still had over 1,200 scrimmage yards. And had 5.4 yards per carry his rookie year. Come on. He's good. He's good. That's end of discussion. I'm just happy they didn't put Todd Gurley on here. I'm just happy that he's not on here. But yeah, this list is an abomination.
I think we can all agree it's horrendous.
I
Yeah.
think so, yes.
So yeah, let's go on to our other discussions. We're talking about Cam Newton to the Patriots. What are our thoughts on that? Does that make the Patriots Super Bowl contenders? Yes or no? I don't even think this discussion matters about Cam Newton as much. Obviously, if you don't think Cam Newton's an upgrade over Jarrett Stidham, I don't think you've watched football before. I mean, this dude literally went in and threw like 4 passes and threw a pick 6 to Jamal Adams. The Patriots put him in garbage time and then had to bench him and put Brady back in against the Jets. this guy's not good. He's not good. Obviously, that's a small sample size, but he had a passer rating of 17.8 or something like that. No.
Well, I definitely think
Cam
Cam Newton's
Newton-
an upgrade, but without Brady, I don't know how the Patriots.
No,
offense
Brady's
necessarily
not.
gonna
I don't.
function,
Like
you know?
Brady just checks the ball down. He's getting there. I don't know why a lot of people think Brady's gonna work in Tampa Bay. Obviously, he just doesn't see any signs of really aging. We saw a little bit last year. But the Buccaneers run a vertical offense where they're constantly throwing the ball down the field.
I still
Brady does not do that anymore at all. They have the reason why Chris Godwin and Mike Evans put up ridiculous stats last year is because they had a quarterback who did not care who caught the ball. He was chucking up 60-yard passes left and right, and if they fell in the hands of Chris Godwin or they fell in the hands of the opposing team's cornerback, he didn't care. Dude passed for over 5,000 yards. There's a reason why he threw for 30 touchdowns and 30 picks. It's because he didn't care who he was throwing it to. He was chucking the ball 50 yards down the field. In terms of stats, I can't see Chris Godwin or Mike Evans really balling out with Brady just because of that style of offense. Now, if we take this back to the Patriots style of offense, they're still going to run a very similar offense in terms of slowly checking the ball down, plays 10, 15-yard chunk plays. They need a better rushing game, obviously. They do have a good running back by committee. But this falls more on their capability of their defense and whether Cam Newton has recovered from his shoulder injury. Cam Newton with the Panthers, obviously the last time he played in 2018, he was throwing the ball underneath, very similar to Brady. He did not have any remote deep ball because of his shoulder. I don't know how good his shoulder is doing right now, but if his shoulder's still hurt, he's going to be playing a similar style. The Patriots wide receivers, they have Mohamed Sanu, who is a solid option. They have Julian Edelman, who's a solid option. And then they had N'Keal Harry, who was a first-round draft pick last year. He underperformed greatly, only caught like 180-something yards last year. But again, they have a solid group, and the group that Cam Newton took, 15-1, had an NFL MVP. You want to know what that receiving core was? Devin Funchess, Ted Ginn Jr., and Jericho Cotchery. They didn't have a single receiver besides Greg Olsen, a tight end. The Patriots don't have a tight end. That's the one thing. They did draft 2 third-round tight ends. But they have better receivers than that. And Cam Newton's back. I feel like the Patriots have a very solid defense. If Cam Newton isn't back, it's going to be up. I think the Patriots defense is going to make them playoff contenders regardless.
Yeah, I feel like, obviously with Belichick, I feel like they'll definitely make the playoffs again.
People are writing them off. Belichick, I can't wait. This is either we get to see the Patriots fail, or we get to prove that Tom Brady is a system quarterback. It's going to be so funny.
It is going to be great no matter what. And especially with the apparent downfall of the Patriots, maybe the Bills take a charge and go first in the division. But
even
I'm
last
still
year's
not sure.
terrible Browns team was able to beat the Bills.
Yeah, exactly. I still can't see them not winning the division.
I don't know how the Bills, they should have easily won that playoff game last year against the Texans. Josh Allen, he makes some questionable decisions, I'll say, especially what he did last year in the playoffs, but he definitely can take a team. The Bills have a solid defense. They could win, but honestly, I don't see the Patriots being dethroned when it's all said and done. And that's not just because of Cam Newton, it's because of the surrounding team they have.
Especially if they're paying... The Patriots have always... Not that they don't pay their player. They didn't pay Tom Brady a lot. But they're not, being like the Chiefs and paying $400 million. They're very good when it comes to paying for key position players.
They don't overspend on anyone. They get a bunch of no-name players. Tom Brady was kind of tired of it. He went to a spot where they had a bunch of players. But honestly, this year's Buccaneers team is like the Buccaneers team, I believe, coming into 2016, I think. That team was super hyped up. They had hard knocks around them. They made an acquisition to acquire Deshaun Jackson. I'm kind of comparing that to the trade to Rob Gronkowski. Obviously, that was a rookie, Jameis Winston, coming off into his second year. Now you have an old Brady, who still made the playoffs last year, coming to a new area. They're overrated. They're going to fail, I think.
It is questionable why they would go that route instead of the long-term solution of trying to get a young quarterback.
I think they think that Brady's going to play another 5 years, and quite frankly, I think that his collapse is going to be very similar to Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, obviously, in 2014 had a phenomenal season, and then goes to 2015 and looked like he fell apart. I saw a lot. I said I saw some signs of Brady worrying last year, and I feel like we're going to see that a little more. And he's not going to be able to check the ball down like he likes to in Tampa Bay. They're going to make him throw the ball down the field.
And yeah, I know they think he's gonna play 5 more years. I know Brady wants to play 5 more years, but
Brady wants to play about 20 more years actually. Not gonna happen.
It's not.
Yeah, we're gonna end our discussion right now. We're gonna talk about the best safety in the NFL because I feel like it right now. Okay, best safety in the NFL. That's gonna be our ending discussion. My opinion, it's good old Justin Simmons. I think that he's the best safety in the NFL. I would like to though give you guys a side by side comparison. I'm gonna give you a player that a lot of people consider the best safety in the NFL, and then I'm gonna give you another player. I'm gonna go side by side. Okay, interceptions. Player number A. I said player number A. Player A 4. Player B 5. Player for passes defended, player A 15, player B 9. Forced fumbles, player A 0, player B 2. Tackles for loss, player A 2, B 1. For total penalties allowed, player A 1, player B 4. For passer rating allowed, player A 43.6, player B 93.0. For touchdowns allowed, player A 1, player B 4. For completion percentage allowed, player A 52.8%, for player B 62.4%. And for missed tackle percentage, player A 7.9%, player B 11.5%. Who would you say is the better player?
Player A, probably.
It does go back and forth, but I go player A.
I think player A is clearly better, especially when you go bring that is Justin Simmons and Minka Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, we're gonna put that on the screen, right? So they could be.
Yeah, actually, the one that I'm gonna put on the screen is also gonna have Jamal Adams in there too. Jamal Adams also has worse stats compared to Justin Simmons. I know Jamal Adams is an entirely different breed of safety. Obviously, he's a strong safety. Simmons is a free safety. So is Minka. But come on, Justin Simmons, number 1 safety on Pro Football Focus, number 1 safety on Next Gen Stats. And you're treating him like he's not even like a top 10 safety. We could have broken down a top 10 safety list. Those lists are terrible too. That would have been fun.
So wait, where does Simmons rank in most of those top 10 safety lists?
He's like 7, 8, 9. Some of them is not even on there.
Doesn't make sense.
He didn't make the Pro Bowl somehow. 15 passes defended, that led the league. 11 pass breakups.
It's crazy when you look at his PFF grade and just where he actually ranks on some.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't like PFF grade. They're like, oh, PFF grade is not a good reflection. Dude put up amazing stats, and then on top of that, has fantastic film. One of the best tacklers in the league. According to Pro Football Focus, only missed 4 tackles out of 98 attempts. Justin Simmons best safety in the league. That's what I think. That's what we're gonna end off. Do you guys agree Justin Simmons best safety in the league or no?
I mean, when you do that, I see it.
I think you can make a good argument.
When you present,
I think when you compare his film to other safeties, and then when you bring stats in the thing, if you're just not talking about name and image, obviously Minka, Jamal, even a player like Earl Thomas, they have the image, they have the name. Like Derwin James has the name from his rookie year. Tyrann Mathieu obviously has the name. When you take all of that away and you just bring pure film into things and you bring stats into things, Simmons has it hands down.
And it's no matter what you think, it's so shocking he didn't make the Pro Bowl.
I think the actual positions.
He wasn't even an alternate.
I think where he's ranked could be debatable, but I do think he's a lock for top 3 easily.
So that's fair. Well, I'd like to thank our proud sponsor, Nicholas Buckley Games, for sponsoring us. He's coming at you with the greatest games of the century. Download Protect the Piggy, Decode, or Jailrun. I messed that up. I'm sorry. Use promo code RZFL on Decode the Code for a free RZFL pack in the game. Man, that was a little sloppy. I think some of them were a little bit more smooth. Wait. Our producers are telling us we need to get one more plug in. So this is sponsored by Nicholas Buckley Games, coming at you with the greatest games of the century. Download Protect the Piggy, Jailrun, or Decode the Code today on the Google Play or App Store. Use promo code RZFL for a free pack on Decode the Code. I think we did it. Did we do it? We did it. Wow, what a podcast. Any final words?
Yeah, I'm good.
No, nothing. I think it was a good podcast, and hopefully we do these more often. For the viewers, we kind of took a good break, but I'd like to get back in the swing of things and push more of these podcasts.
And I'm going to end the final words of the podcast. Chubba, chubba, choo choo.